Hey guys, this is a video I'm putting together today to show you how to make a DIY base for your muddy camera arm so that you can film hunts from your climber. And this is such an awesome setup. I've used it all this season, got some great film. It's just so convenient, and it only costs about 15 bucks to make and very little time to make. So if you've got an interest in filming hunts from your lone wolf tree stand, or potentially this could fit on other tree stands, this is going to be a good video for you to check out. Alright, so I'm going to start by showing you the top platform of my lone wolf hand climber. I think you'll recognize it if you have one, but you'll obviously notice there are quite a few modifications on there. First things that you probably notice is this Hunt Comfort Scout seat. It's just a memory foam seat that uses the buttons on the back and on the sides to clip in. I already undid the buttons, so I'm going to just set that off to the side so that we can see what we're working with. But this is the key thing we're talking about today. This is the DIY muddy base that I put together. It only costs about 15 bucks to make, which is pretty sweet. So I'll go through the list of what I used and how I actually made it myself. This is what I have the camera, my muddy camera arm sitting in. It's basically a series of galvanized pipe. Hopefully this makes it easier for you, but this is the list of all the supplies I bought at Home Depot and the tools that I used to make it. So you'll notice that there's a 3/4 inch T and also a 3/4 inch nipple that's 8 inches long, or either 6 or 8 inches long. So this is the T here, and this is the nipple that I use. Those are both galvanized. One of each is all that you need. The next thing that I used was 3/4 inch electric PVC male conduit. So I used two of those, one screwed into the top of this T and the other one screwed into the bottom. And what you have to do is once they screw in, there's going to be a shoulder that sticks out off of the top, and use either a Sawzall or a handsaw to chop that off flush. And then you might want to touch it up with either a grinder or a file of sorts, just to make it so that it's perfectly flush with the top of the T. But those are actually the perfect width that the muddy camera arm just sits right in there. So that's one thing you have to note. But look, it just sits right in there, nice and flush, perfectly, and sits down on the just a little bit through on the other side. That's why it's important to use both. The final thing you're probably going to notice on the supplies list that I haven't mentioned yet was the metal worm duct clamps. I used 5 of those because I used 3 attaching to this side piece of the platform of the seat, and I also have 2 others reaching over to this other kind of support beam in the seat. The reason for that is I originally started with just 3 attaching to the outside, but it wasn't sturdy enough to hold the pipe in place. The pipe would shift a little bit, and also one of the times it rolled over the other side. So by having 3 of them pull one direction and 2 pull the other direction, it puts so much pressure on the pipe to stay still that there's no way that it can spin in place, and there's no way that it's going to slide in or out or twist in any way. So that's why I used 5 of these metal worm duct clamps. You might find that there are other options that work better for you, or maybe ideas that you have, but these work best for me. So one other thing I want to note on the metal duct clamps is that I specifically decided to angle them so that it wasn't going to be a pressure point on my butt when I was sitting down in the seat pad, and that they're also flush on the bottom so that it's not going to get caught on the underside as I'm moving around my tree stand or using gear. They're not going to get caught on anything, and they're not going to be uncomfortable under my butt. So that was just one thing to point out if you're doing this and using the metal duct clamps, to keep that in mind when you screw them in. Any final touches you might want to do to that would be either to paint it or to, I tried to use brown electrical tape in order to deaden the sound on this a bit. I think that worked out nicely, but I am probably going to spray paint this with rubberized truck undercoating as well to add a nice finish to it and also further dampen the sound. I also just wanted to make a couple comments on the usability of this camera arm. So since it's on the Lone Wolf top platform, I decided to put it on the right side of the seat so that when I'm sitting facing out, I'm a righty and my right arm can be controlling the camera and moving the camera arm around. And that way, in a perfect scenario, the deer's off to my left and the camera's never in the way and I'm still able to use it while my bow's in my left hand. So this is a perfect setup for me, but if you're a lefty, you probably want it on the other side of the tree stand. The other thing about the Lone Wolf is that when I bought it at least, it came with these straps to cinch to the bottom platform, and that's how you level it. So for instance, if the camera's tilted a little to the side, you would tighten down this side of the platform to pull it and level it the other way. So those are essential. You got to have these straps that connect the platform. I wouldn't use the tree stand without the straps anyways, just because when you cinch them together it becomes one big unit and it's so much more stable in the tree stand. But just kind of that's another thing to note. All right, so I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it gave you a good idea of how I created that DIY muddy camera base mount. It worked out really well for me this past season. It's really cheap. And I think that there's a lot of room for adaptability with this tree stand or with other climber tree stands that you have. Hopefully this is helpful. If you have any suggestions for me to improve or for anyone else looking to do this, leave them in the comments below. And thanks for watching the video. I appreciate it, guys.